be playing in. So I think it had to be more than just, fine, we'll play you in Dubai and every other team will play you in Dubai. I think there had to be more to even the contest out. So rightly so, the fingers being raised. It was always going to come up. Some teams will obviously say more because they're out of the tournament, some will not. But it's not fair entirely in terms of, it's obviously not equal playing field, is it?
This scheduling conversation will add up a lot more at the end of the tournament when everyone has had to make their travels. But if we consider the tournament at this stage, there are quite a few teams who have not had to change venues. For instance, a team which has been knocked out of the competition in England have played 2 matches in Lahore. They didn't have to travel. When you go back to the 2023 ODI World Cup, India did a lot of traveling. At their own choice, but they did travel more than any other team, played every group stage game at different venues. Do you feel the scheduling argument tends to come up more in the form of an excuse when it comes up retrospectively after results have taken place?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the scheduling that we see, it does, obviously, with what has happened, India obviously has a favor. But at the end of the day, you've got to play good cricket and still win. So you've got to give credit to India also to be playing. India is obviously one of the title contenders. But because of the scheduling, it feels like, a lot of things are in favor of India. But yeah, I mean, if you talk about 2023 World Cup, India played on all 9 different venues. Yeah. India had never played 2 back-to-back games where all the other teams also played. So we never mentioned that. Yeah. India being the host nation, we played on different ground every game, and still obviously went unbeaten until the final. So, we don't consider. Pakistan played in Hyderabad, I think, couple of games. Bangladesh played in Kolkata, vice versa. I mean, lot of other teams also played back-to-back games, but India never played. But we never mentioned that. But eventually, you have to play good cricket to win tournaments and obviously lift the trophy.
Uruj?
Yeah, I think that's a massive point that Wasim makes. I think you need to be very careful and separate the discussion. It's a 2-pronged discussion. Obviously, there'll be teams and there'll be people who will be obviously disgruntled with results, and then the conversation come in. But you look at it from a neutral point of view. Yes, you have to put it into consideration. India's played very good cricket. Look at Pakistan; they've let themselves down massively, and whatever is being said now is obviously an after effect of things. But by and large, I think there are 2 different discussions, and on a whole, the different venues could have been a thing, but a lot of the teams will obviously now bring it in as a conversation given results. So they just have to be very careful in separating the 2.
Okay. This doesn't feel like a conversation that lends itself to a rapid-fire question, but I do have one before we close the thread on this. There are enough reasons, logically, to point to the advantage of playing at one venue, but given the ground realities, given the political stuff that goes on in the background and the hardships of organizing these events for the ICC, for the organizers, is India's advantage an unfair one? Uruj?
Yeah, I would think so. It just how unfair it is obviously objective. Yours could be different to mine, and we're all entitled to our opinion. But I think it is unfair in the sense of playing on the same surface. Maybe if it could have been 2 different venues for the 3 games. Because you mentioned England earlier on. Remember, they were obviously playing their 2 games at Lahore, but the 3rd one was already scheduled in Karachi for the Saturday. The Pakistan was obviously moving around all 3 venues and then back to Lahore for if they made the semi-final. So teams have moved around. So I think maybe adding 1 more venue into that would have made the conversation slightly more fair.
All right, fair point.
Yeah, I think I also agree. I mean, like I said before, if India would have played at Abu Dhabi, would have probably felt a bit fair to all the other teams. It's a still 2.5 hours journey, different playing conditions. You got to have picked different teams. Probably you don't know. Dubai and Abu Dhabi have different, kind of surface. So yeah, it would have been fair after that. But eventually, still, I feel you need to play good cricket to win it.
Yeah. I do feel like we've not heard the last of this conversation, and it is likely to come up a few more times from a few other teams and from many other players, perhaps, over the remainder of this Champions Trophy. Let's bring our attention back to the game at hand, Pakistan versus Bangladesh, both playing their last game of this competition. And I want to go a bit deeper into Bangladesh because it's an intriguing story in that you don't need to go that far back in time to a period where Bangladesh were consistently punching above their weight and pulling off the results which were termed as upsets then. You think of 2015, they made it to the quarterfinals of the ODI World Cup ahead of England. 2017 Champions Trophy, they were semi-finalists. They beat New Zealand in the group stage. 2018, they made an Asia Cup final and beat Pakistan and Sri Lanka on the way to making that final. And even the 2019 World Cup, they did have wins over South Africa and West Indies. But when you thought that they would just keep kicking on, they've hit a downward spiral when you consider recent tournaments, Wasim.
Yeah, I mean, since that 2019 probably World Cup, I think they have come down. And I think even in 2019, I don't think they have a very great World Cup. I think only Shakib, played fantastically well as a team. It was a disappointing campaign. But I just feel pretty much like Pakistan, the president has been picked by the Prime Minister, pretty similar to what Pakistan does. And then again, there's a lot of chops and changes happens. The president keeps changing. I mean, we've seen that very often. The coaches have come and gone. Bangladesh is a very, emotional people. When the results doesn't go, you get the stick very quickly. So we have seen a lot of changes in the coaches as well, similar to what we've seen in Pakistan. The chairmen have, in the last 4 years, we've seen 4 chairmen. So even if you have the best of ideas, it doesn't stay for long. So I think that's been the case with Bangladesh as well. The other problem is also that, like I've said, the senior player hasn't stood up in the big tournament, which you expect. And that has been the problem for a while. Mahmudullah Riyad, Mushfiqur Rahim, Saqib, Tamim, even the fast bowlers or, Mehdi Hassan Miraz had a pretty poor tournament. But I just feel those are probably the reason where the consistency and stability is an issue in both Pakistan and Bangladesh.
Yeah, I want to come back to you, especially considering your knowledge of how the system works. You've spent some time there at Bangladesh grassroots. But Uruj, when we consider Bangladesh's issues over the last few years, it's not been for a lack of talent coming up. I mean, it's not too long ago, 2020, they won the Under-19 World Cup. There was a crop of players highly rated, highly regarded. Talent is not an issue. Why do you think there's a problem in terms of translating it into performing consistently at the highest level?
Yeah, I think like Wasim said, having right people in the right jobs to start with, and then consistency, but with a certain level of accountability as well, and then developing that player pool. Yes, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, there's a huge resource of talent. It's how you nourish that talent, chain it together, and obviously push it through a system. I think it's a lack of a system as well. Maybe some of the older, more experienced players have hung on for too long, maybe not allowing spots for the younger ones to develop, and then when the younger players are thrown into the deep end, they're obviously not of that quality. Also remember, a lot of Pakistan and Bangladesh players don't get picked for franchise cricket, and now franchise cricket is a commercial commodity, and we look at Afghanistan players, we've spoken about this earlier, they play a lot of franchise cricket, and that's helped their overall game. It's just helped the mindset with which they play with, and obviously brush up on their skills. You look at the better leagues going around, how many Pakistan and Bangladesh players do you see? So that has a massive effect, and all of that comes down to the quality. So yes, I think it's a massive discussion with so many layers that you can peel back, and I think for Pakistan and Bangladesh, very similar problems, but talent definitely not an issue.
If we go by the words of the captain, Najmul Hossain Shanto, he has pinned the blame on the batting as far as this campaign goes. He's even said that they have taken it lightly. Is that a view you agree with?
Lightly in the sense?
He said that the batters have taken things lightly.
I don't think you can do that in an ICC event. I don't think it's a right statement. If they do, I mean, they should have been shown the door. But if you've turned into a Champions Trophy or a World Cup or for any bilateral, I mean, you're representing your country. If you're taking things lightly, I think you should not be there. So, that's the cause of concern. No matter who's that, whether he's a youngster, whether he's a senior player, you can't be taking things for granted. But yeah, they have underperformed pretty consistently, and that's been an issue. So that needs to be addressed. I think you need to first of all identify the players who you think, who's going to play at international level and has the temperament to succeed, and stick with those players for a while. Because I think at international level, you're not going to get the success straight away, but you need to stick with those players. And we've seen that. We've seen with Tanzir Hassan, he's been given a longer rope, but he hasn't transformed, that into performance. He's getting 25s and 30s, pretty good 25s and 30s, where, he captures your eyes, with his stroke play, but he hasn't transformed that into hundreds or a bigger score. So you need to identify the talent and temperament of the players and then stick with them, and hopefully in a year or 2 years' time, you are bound to get results.
So when you consider this particular squad, Wasim, and also any others who you may have seen as part of the setup, who are the batters they can focus on as far as a rebuild goes?
I think they've got to stick with Tanzir Hassan. He's somebody who looks, pretty talented. Tauhid Hridoy, again, is a good one. There are few under 19 boys who they can try, because Mushfiq and Mahmudullah Riyad are not going to be there for forever. So I think they need to find out. I've been out of the system for a while, but I'm sure there's a lot of good players. Zakir Ali has shown promise in T20 and one-day format. But you need to find another 2-3 good players, who can come and do the job, and especially the youngsters. You need to pick somebody who's 20, 21. So by the time he turns 23, 24, he's a ready product.
Uruj, part of the batting conversation is also for how long do you continue persisting with the likes of Mushfiqur Rahim and Mahmudullah? Mahmudullah still had a penchant of having an innings or two at the big events. Mushfiqur Rahim not had the greatest of returns last few big tournaments, and even between that, do Bangladesh have to take the call and just say we have to look beyond them?
Yeah, I think there's a time and a place for everything. I think what does the experience bring to the table, firstly, right? I mean, in my point of view, it brings the experience of winning the key moments, winning those big games, and getting you over the line across to the next stages of ICC massive men's events, right? So you look at you just showed that graphic of post 2019. It's not like they've been in a knockout stage. It's not like they've made the second stage. So for the past 6 years, that experience hasn't really given you the result for what they're there for. So it comes a time where, like, right, what is this experience getting us? We haven't won, and we haven't gotten those big occasions during the during those ICC events. So maybe you draw the line. And with that, what you do is you rebuild, and you're probably not as disappointed losing with that experience as opposed to a new lot of players who then get into those match situations, and hopefully next time they come good. And that's your new crop of players, and then you go into the next 4-year cycle with them. So I just feel that's probably the way to do it. I think for Bangladesh, that might just be the story to call it a day for some of those experienced guys.
Go on,
yeah, I mean, I think Bangladesh and Pakistan, they are in that stage, I feel, if I recollect when Eoin Morgan was the captain, and after 2015 World Cup, they decided, they're going to play a different brand of cricket and select those personnel, select those players who are going in that same direction. I think Pakistan, first of all, needs to find that captain. So is Bangladesh. If Najmul Hasan Shanto is your guy, I quite like Miraj. I think he's somebody who's pretty young, pretty dashing, and he looks like somebody who takes the game on, takes the game forward. Pakistan need to find a captain, first of all, like that, who has got same kind of mentality, find those kind of players, and then give them a longer rope and build a team, which England did under Eoin Morgan. I think these both teams needs to go in that direction, and then not look for result for the first year, but hopefully they'll get the result after some time.
Right. The road ahead is going to be a tricky one for both Pakistan and Bangladesh. At the moment, we're hoping the weather ahead is not as tricky as it seems. If we were to get some action in Rawalpindi, Uruj, are you expecting any changes to the lineup? Any players who haven't got a go yet who you'd like to get a chance?
Yeah, I think the shorter the game, the more favor it, or the more advantage stacks up in Pakistan's favor. I think looking at the Pindi surface, again, batting paradise, they might just bring Usman Khan and give him a go, and he'll have a debut. He's turned out a lot of runs on that particular surface in Pindi. But I just feel maybe whoever's left on the bench really might just get a go. I'm not quite sure. It's really disappointing. It's one of those that honestly doesn't really matter. But maybe the one change that you're looking at on that Pindi surface, the shorter the game, if we are reduced overs, maybe Usman Khan comes in for Imam Al-Haq.
All right. The bigger change we're hoping for, as I see the visuals, is for the weather to start relenting in Rawalpindi. It denied us one first-time meeting at the Champions Trophy in Australia, South Africa a couple of days ago. Here we have Pakistan, Bangladesh, and you really want to see these sides playing. If action does commence, we'll be back here. Wasim Jafar and Uruj Mumtaz will be with us through the day. We'll have Osman Samiuddin joining later on as well, because there is a deeper dive yet which remains to be done on Pakistan cricket and where they go from now. Uruj will have some plans which he'll share with all of us later through the day, so be sure to join us even when that happens on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents CSPN Cricinfo Match Day.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.
Want even ingredients के नित्य के पास है